So, Baruch Hashem, we're getting a chance to spend some time in understanding the parasha. Of course, we cannot go through the entire parasha. Of course, we cannot go through the entire parasha because the entire parasha will just take so much time, and we have a limited time. The two things we have to speak about is, before we start, is what are we doing here tonight? There's a halacha that everyone has to prepare before Shabbat. In women's domain is they prepare the house for Shabbat, right? They get ready, they cook, they do that. And the halacha is also brought down that in the Gemara, there are many stories that the rabbis, they would prepare the fish, they would slice up the vegetables, dice the vegetables, they would do many things to prepare for Shabbat. However, there's also another way to prepare for Shabbat. Rav Pam would always say that another way to prepare for Shabbat is to actually, for a man, is to prepare Dvar Torah. After his wife or his mother prepared so much delicious food for Shabbat, it's only right that they can hear a nice piece of Torah. I mean, even if you're a yeshiva bacher, you still have to prepare. Why? Because in yeshiva they learn the whole day Gemara, and the Ritva, and the Rashi, and the Tosfot, and they're going back and forth. You come home and you have everybody that's on regular people. It's very hard to give them a whole shot in the sugya, and the chepsa, and the gavra, and what's what. So it's important to prepare something that's with the taste and something to say. And Thursday night is a special night to when to learn Torah. A lot of tikkunim that are brought down on Leil Shishi. When a person learns on Leil Shishi, it makes a lot of tikkunim. Again, we learn in Zechut for Hatzlacha that everybody who needs Mazal and needs Hatzlacha should have Mazal and Hatzlacha.
I would have also put a blue shirt on.
And we're learning also the Refuah Shlema for Yigal ben Harav, Yigal ben Yael, Chaimov, B'ezrat Hashem, we have a full Refuah Shlema, b'toch all the sick people in Israel, B'ezrat Hashem. Also the Ilon Nishmat, Yair ben Berta, Gama, my aunt Sarah bat Rachel. Then we should learn Ilon Nishmat. Anybody?
Batel ben Shifra.
Batel bat Shifra.
Ben Shifra.
Batel? Paltiel ben Shifra. Batel also ben Shifra. Also have it in the Nishmat. It's a nice place, no?
I was in Nikko before. When I was really young. I used to come here.
So yeah, it's a nice place. Okay, you made it right on time, so let's begin. Yes, let's begin. So, take a homage, you can open up to page 251. Our job, like we said was that we're gonna try to. We're gonna have more. Yeah. We're going to try to get a few concepts. We're gonna try to deal with.
Give me something in like that I would be able to.
You're gonna
share myself.
Everything I'm gonna say. You're gonna be able to share. I guarantee it to you.
Should be good and sweet.
It's gonna be good. It's gonna be sweet. That's what we just mentioned. That it has to be good and sweet. Everything here is. It's relatable. Everything comes with a story. Everything comes packaged beautifully the way you want to hear it, the way you want to have it. Okay. So, Parshat Vayigash. Wow.
Oh gosh.
Parshat Vayigash is the climax of the story of Yosef and his brothers.
We could after all we could start posting your lectures if you.
I'm also recording yours.
No, I'm saying would you be able to post it? Or we could send it.
We could. We're gonna try. So, in Parshat Vayigash, this is where Yosef reveals himself to his brothers. They sold him. He fell into a prison. He was in prison for a long time. He met the chief baker. He met the chief butler, and now, finally, he's the second in command of Egypt, and he's the second in command of Egypt.
You missed out with the class, man.
And he makes his brothers get really angry, really like upset at him. Right? What happens? They all came. They bought food. He gave them the food back. He gave them the food back, and in the bags he hid his cup. What was the cup? What did he do with the cup? It says in the pasuk that he was doing magic with his cup. He would sit like this. Midrash says he also would take the cup and knock it, and say, "I know all of you. you really are 12 brothers. Reuven, when you're in your room, you sleep on this bed. Shimon, you sleep on the top next to him. Levi, and like, how does this guy know it? And he knows it because he used to live with them, right? And he think he's a magician. And then Yosef hides this goblet in Binyamin's little bag. And then Yosef sends his oldest son Menashe to go and catch them. And then they say, whoever is going to have the cup in the bag, he's going to become a slave for you. And they open everybody's bag. They open Binyamin's bag last. And they see it and they say, you're just like your mother. She stole the idols from her father and you stole this from there. What are we going to do? And they say, okay, you guys can leave. All 10 brothers, leave Binyamin here. And they say, no way. They come there. And Yehuda approaches Yosef, and the whole fight, they're about to go. Midrash says Yehuda's hair is sticking up, and they come and they relax him. You know the Midrash. Just point the class is not for the Midrash. What happens is, we're going to discuss what happens
We're going straight to the
when Yosef says, that's it, I can't take it anymore. I have to reveal to them who I am. Why did he do that? The Midrash says because he saw that a war is about to erupt and they're going to destroy all of Egypt and it's over. So he said, now is the time to tell them. And this is what he says. If we look in Pasuk, where are we? Pasuk, Perek Mem He, Pasuk Gimel. Yosef turns to his brother and he says, Ani Yosef, ha'od Avi Hai. Is my father still alive? I am Yosef. Is my father still alive? And he says, and Pasuk says further, V'lo yachelu echav la'anot oto. And his brothers could not answer him. V'lo yachelu echav la'anot. Anot means to answer, right? La'anot oto ki nivha'alu mipanav. Because they were, what they could say, dumbfounded. Their mouths were left agape, like, what's happening? The Midrash Rabbah over here, the Midrash Rabbah brings down a very, very important concept. He says like this: Abba Kohen Bardella says, "Woe is to us on the day of judgment when we're going to get judged in the Shemayim. Woe is to us on the day of reproof." Yosef was the second to youngest from the Midrash Rabbah. He brings it. Yosef was the second to youngest of tribes. Okay. And his brothers couldn't face him when he gave them rebuke. He told them, I got you. And they, mouth open. Imagine we go up into Shemayim and we're going to get Musar. How are we going to answer Hashem? We're going to be totally embarrassed. Okay. Now, before we understand this Midrash, there's a very, very big question on the Midrash. The Midrash says Yosef gave them rebuke. Yosef gave them Musar. Where is the Musar? What did Yosef say? Yosef said, I knew Yosef. I am Yosef.
What you tried to do?
How old Avi Hai? Is my father still alive? What was the Musar? He didn't say, you guys, you try to sell me. He didn't tell him anything like that. What he said was, I'm Joseph. Is my father still alive? So, what was the Musar that he told them? So the Beit HaLevi gives a beautiful, beautiful explanation. What was their whole argument? He says, what was the whole argument of the brothers? What was the whole argument of Yehuda to get Binyamin back? What was his whole argument? What did he say?
I'll give up my Olam Haba or something.
Well, he had to fight because he said, I'm going to give him Olam Haba. Well, what was his argument to Yosef? What did he say?
He said that everything was measured for measure, but when we were selling you, he wasn't there.
Tell you what, Yehuda was telling Yosef, you can't do this. Because Binyamin's father is an old man. And Binyamin doesn't come back, he's going to die. It's over for him. So he says, yeah, how do you do this to Binyamin? How do you do it to my father? Yosef, what are you doing? Yehuda tells him. So this is now the Musar that Yosef is telling them. Yosef tells them, really? You're scared about your father, how he's going to feel, and what he's going to say if Binyamin doesn't come back. I need Yosef. I am Yosef when you sold me. You didn't think about your father, our father. Ha'od Avichai, is my father still alive from before when you sold me? He's telling them, you're worried about Binyamin not coming back because my father's not going to feel well. What about me? What, my father felt well afterwards? For 22 years he's sitting in anguish. That was okay. So the rebuke was this. It was hypocrisy, inconsistency. You're telling me, Binyamin, you have to send Binyamin back because his father's not going to feel well. Yosef, he says, I'm Yosef. Why didn't you think about that when you sold me? The Beit Levi says, this is not only here, this is a tocha, this is a rebuke that we're going to get. In Shemayim, when they're going to come and say, how come you didn't give tzedakah? And the man says, I didn't have money. Dang it, I didn't have any money. Or the way you say it in Yiddish, I don't have any money, right? People say it and they come to tzedakah, or they go like this with their hands. And Hashem's going to say, really? Put on the video. That same day, you went into the shop and you wanted to buy something for yourself and you bought a very expensive sandwich. Dang it, you had. Money you had. But for tzedakah, when they came around, you didn't. But when you had come for tzedakah, you didn't have money. Or he says as follows. Rabbi Mansour brings down another example. He says, when a person makes a bar mitzvah for his son, or they make a wedding. So when it comes time to buy the tefillin, the father goes to the shop and he tells, listen, how much is your tefillin? So he says, this one, small one, good, $1,000. $1,000, highway robbery, the rabbis are stealing here, they're making a business out of tefillin. He says, give me the cheapest one, I take it for $200, he's haggling the price. That same day he goes to the florist. He says, listen, I don't care. Money's no object. Give me the best flowers. Fly them in the same day they're cut on the Concord and set them up beautifully. Inconsistency again. Comes to tefillin, $200. Comes to the flowers, money's no object. Same thing when a person builds a house. Person builds a house, he wants the best stuff. He builds his house, he buys a beautiful door. He gets a handmade doorknob from Italy that's cost $500. And now it's time to come and put the mezuzah. He goes to the sofa. He says, listen, I'm looking for in the $20 and $10 range of mezuzot.
I have some change in my pocket.
I mean, that's inconsistency. It's one thing if you want to spend $500 for the doorknob. So spend $500 for the mezuzah as well. Be consistent with what you do. Because that's how Hashem's going to get you. What Yosef said. Yosef said, you're worried about Binyamin, but you weren't worried. You weren't worried about me what was going to happen to my father, right? You weren't worried. Same thing Hashem's going to say. You had no money, now you had money. You said you couldn't do it, Now, the same thing with time. People say, I can't learn Torah. Why can't I learn Torah? I don't have time. But yet, half hour for the newspaper, he has. 2-3 hours watching television, everybody has suddenly. But when it comes, Chas v'shalom, it's a very bad thing. But when it comes to learning Torah, for 20 minutes, I don't have time. Right? It's again inconsistency. If you have time, you have time. If you don't have, you have to be consistent with what you do. A lot of people, when it comes for mitzvot that are chukim, mitzvot chukim. For example, shatnez. They say, why do I have to check my suit for shatnez? What am I gonna do? Well, Lenin, what's going to happen? I'm not going to die. It's not a bomb. There's nothing going to happen. Why do I have to check these things? Or he says kashrut, milk, meat. Who makes up these stuff? It's all a bunch of nonsense. Yet this same guy is scared of the black cat. For what reason? Nobody knows. He's scared of Friday the 13th. For what reason? Nobody knows. He builds a house, builds a building without the 13th floor. Right? But this he doesn't understand, but he holds to it. But when it comes to shatnez, kashrut, mezuzot, mezuzah he won't get, but he'll put a horseshoe or some eyepieces or who knows on their door. But mezuzah, no. Right? It's all inconsistent. It's all inconsistent. The story is said. They bring down a story from Rav Chaim Ozer Gordzensky of Vilna. Rav Chaim Ozer, one day, he was in Vilna, and they needed to make a mikvah. There was a certain place, and they didn't have a mikvah for women. So he said, we're going to make a mikvah for women. So he trying to raise funds. So he went to one Jew, not so religious. So he went to him and said, listen, we're trying to raise funds. Him, an assistant rabbi, and the secular Jew are all sitting there. And he tells him, we want to get funds. So the secular Jew says, listen, Rabbi, 100 years ago, I understood the need for mikvah. Right? There was no sanitation. You couldn't give a bath normally. It took one in 30 days. So you needed to have mikvah so the woman would periodically be clean. Nowadays, we have better plumbing and stuff like that. So there's no need for mikvah. The rabbi tried to explain it's tahorah. He doesn't get it. So then the rabbi is still talking to him. The rabbi pulls out a cigarette. And back then they said cigarettes were healthy. So you don't have to start with that. He pulls out a cigarette. He gives one to his assistant. And he gives one to the secular Jew. So the secular Jew says, okay, let me get the match. He takes out the match. He lights the rabbi's cigarette. He lights the assistant rabbi's cigarette. He shuts off the match, puts on a new match, and lights his own cigarette. So the rabbi tells him, I don't understand. Why'd you put two, shut it off, and light a third one with a new match? He says, Rabbi, what, you didn't know that you're not allowed to light a 3 cigarettes with one match? It's not good for luck. It's very bad luck if you do that. The rabbi says, this you understand, but mikvah you don't understand. Right? It's inconsistent. If you're you have to be consistent. You have to be very consistent with what you do. Because you cannot say, Eino Yachol, I can't do it. And really, in Yachol means I don't want to do it. I don't want to learn Torah. I don't want to get tzedakah. I don't want to do these things. That's why you're coming up with excuses. I don't want to check for shatnez. I don't want to do these things. If you come up with excuses. But when it comes to other things, the black cat, it comes to the newspaper, the television, you have time, you have stuff to do. Okay?
Can you whistle at home?
So this is one of the concepts, and one of the this is one of the rebukes. What we said that Yosef told him. He says, "I am Yosef. When you sold me, why didn't you think like you're saying now that Binyamin, if he doesn't go back to his father, it's going to hurt your father so much? How come when you sold me, you didn't think it's going to hurt your father? You're being inconsistent." That is one of the ways to look at this rebuke. Another explanation of what he said when he said, "Ani Yosef ha'od avichai." Yosef was saying like this: for 22 years, the brothers felt that what they did was right. In fact, we learned that they did a bedin. They sat down. They made that Yosef was a rasha. Yosef was going to be killing them out, and that's why they sold him and they got rid of him. Right? Why did they say that? Because they said until now Avraham had Yitzhak Ishmael. Yitzhak became the further of Klal Yisrael, and Ishmael was put to the side. Yitzchak had Yaakov and Esau. Esau went to the side, Yaakov went further. He says Yaakov now is teaching Yosef the special stuff that he learned. He's always with him, giving him that special code. It looks like Yosef is going to be the future of Klal Yisrael, and the brothers felt that they're going to be left out, but they're tzaddikim, so they should also continue. So they made a din, and they said he's a rodef, he's a pursuer, and we're selling him. For 22 years, they thought that they were right. When Yosef said, "Ani Yosef," he said to them, "You were wrong." How did he say? He said, "You thought I wanted to kill you. How long you been in Egypt already? How many times? Twice. And since here I've been driving you around in circles. I'm the second in command to Egypt. If I wanted you dead, I can have all of you dead and nobody would know about it. Ani Yosef. I am Yosef. You thought I was going to kill you. I never wanted to kill you. The fact is that you're right in front of me right now and I have the power to do it. And I didn't." And it's at this point the brothers realize for 22 years they lived their life the wrong way. They thought they were right, but in actuality they were very, very wrong. He says, "Ani Yosef, I'm Yosef. What were you thinking?" They say when it comes to Shemayim, Hashem is going to say 2 words, "Ani Hashem," and then you're going to understand, why did I waste my life? I made my primary the material stuff. Oh, I have to work, I have to get money, I have to run. A guy takes 6 jobs, he's upside down, he's getting money up, he doesn't know where to put it. He's taking out everything just to get more money, mortgage, car, this, that. And he makes his learning secondary, or if he's lucky, tertiary, if not fourth in priority. He puts everything to the side. And then when he comes with the Shemayim, Hashem says, "Ani Hashem, I'm God." Your spirituality was supposed to be the priority. And your whole life was off. You spent it the wrong way. The whole thing was wrong. A person always thinks what he does is right. The Yetzer Hara has a way of making people think what they're doing is right. And if someone does something more than them, they say he's a fanatic. And someone does something less than him, he's a rasha. But he is perfect. That's what the Mishlei says. Mishlei in Perek Bet says, Derech Evil Yashar Be'anav. A fool always thinks his path is proper. But a wise man always looks to ask other people, am I doing right? Did I read correctly? After he's a Hazan, he comes down and he says, did I make any mistakes? Because he wants to know if you made mistakes. Sometimes when you're reading, you don't recognize yourself. When you're reading Sefer Torah, you may not recognize it. When you're giving something, a lecture, you may not realize that you made a mistake. Someone can give you and prod you in the right direction. When you're doing different things, you're doing a mitzvah, someone can tell you, you're doing something wrong, say it like this, do it like that, make it like that. A person has to be open to hearing other people.
Nowadays, God forbid if you correct the feeling of somebody,
they get upset. Why? Because these people are foolish. Foolish people are people who don't understand that other people can help them. These brothers thought they were right, but they were very, very mistaken. So we don't want Hashem to say, Ani Hashem, when we realize that we made such a big mistake in our life. So it's very important that we make Torah a priority and spiritualism a priority. The Rav Pam here says another very, very important musar. He says, when Yosef's brothers were looking at him, what did they tell him? You're nobody. You're going to be nothing. We're going to make you nobody. You're the smallest of everybody. For you, it's over. But you're not going to become anything. Rav Pam says, it's so important. And not only that, who would ever think Yosef would become second in command in Egypt? He was in the dungeon. He was sitting in the prison. And now he became second in command. Who would think that? Who would think that? Only Hashem can change someone from being so low and putting him so high up. Rav Pam says from here, it's very important that we never ever judge somebody. We can never say somebody and categorize him and collectively label him as no shoot. You can't do that to somebody because you don't know what he can actually become to. Everybody can come. If Yosef was sitting in dungeon and I would come to you and take you, look at this man, he's sitting in dungeon. Do you think he become king? You're going to tell me, what are you out of your mind? Go jump in a lake? No, it's not possible. But Hashem has a way of making the lowest person to the highest person. Therefore, if you see somebody in yeshiva or you're sitting in a class and someone is not understanding and you understand more than him, and you say, this guy, hey, forget about him, don't teach him, don't learn with him, don't talk to him, it's over, you're wasting your time. Chas v'shalom. Because this guy is going to become the rabbi. He's going to come to yeshiva. How many stories are told that the people that were nobody, they couldn't learn, they didn't know what to do. Rambam, when he was a little boy, he couldn't understand anything. His father berated him until he went and he cried and he ran away and he went to learn for a couple of years. Then he came back, he was Talmud Chacham. People who really want, they become. Not people who know. Most times people who know good or easily grab stuff, they do not become big. Why? Because it comes easy to them. Easy come, easy goes. They don't spend time in understanding and learning and bringing it higher. So Rav Pam says it's very important. Rav Pam says it's very important never to put anybody down or label anybody as a loser and is never going to become anything. How many times we meet people from our past that we thought were nobody and now they're doctors or lawyers or rabbis or big stuff? It happens. And if it didn't happen yet, it will happen. Okay. There's a famous story that's brought down during the times of Rav Yom Tov. Rav Yom Tov, he was a rabbi in Krakow. He wrote in the Gemara, you find Tosfot Yom Tov. He wrote a Tosfot Yom Tov. This is the rabbi. During his time, there was a man named Shimon. Shimon was a miser. He was the cheapest guy on earth. Tzedakah, get out of here, he'd tell you. It was great. Run you out of town. Don't go for him for anything. Anybody came to him, he gave up nothing. Not even a penny. And during that same time, there were two people in the city. One was a blacksmith, and one was a baker. And they were the biggest philanthropists you've ever seen. Money to every cause. They would secretly provide money for every poor person. And then one day, Shimon the miser died. And you know what type of funeral they gave him? Like garbage funeral. Nobody came. They put him on the side of the cemetery, holding on the side. And then, a few weeks later, the blacksmith and the baker, they stopped giving tzedakah to everybody. So Rav Yom Tov said, I don't understand. What's happening? These guys were the biggest philanthropists. So he calls them both inside. He says, what happened? Why both of you stopped giving tzedakah at the same time? So he said, Rabbi, it is what it is. We can't give. I said, no, your businesses, we've been watching them. They're the same. Nothing changed. You're getting the same money in. You're getting the same money out. So the markets stay the same. So what happened? He says, we cannot say. We've been sworn to secrecy. The Rav says, I command you in the power of the Torah that you have to say. He said, listen, Rabbi, Be'emet, Shimon, he used to give us the money to give these people. Now he's dead. They don't have that money anymore. Rav Yom Tov said, if this is the case, in his will he wrote, when I die, you're going to bury me right next to Shimon, the miser. But he's actually a tzaddik. So we learn, everyone thought Shimon was nobody. Even after his death, hey, get out of here, don't give it. But really, Shimon was the highest guy you can give tzedakah, but secrecy, nobody knew anything about it.
Like that.
So
for people to think that he's cheap.
Okay, we don't ask questions on a story. That's a famous line in Chassidut. We don't ask questions on stories, right? Fregnish kashus of my. It goes like this. There's two things you don't ask questions in Chassidut. Fregnish kashus of my. So you don't ask questions on stories, and Fregnish kashus of Rebbes. You don't ask any questions on the Rebbe. The Rebbe did something you don't ask a question about, but you don't ask a question on the story. I will try.
This class is
You
without
won't
question.
understand.
The next piece that I want to bring down is a piece that's very important for us to understand, because this world is very very hard to understand in a lot of times. If you look at Perek Mem Hey Pasuk Hey, it says as follows. He says to them, he tells the brothers, relax, don't get all excited that you sold me here and get all upset. Because to make us survive, Hashem sent me in front of you. Yosef is telling the brothers, that everything you did, don't worry about it. Hashem actually sent me here so this can happen, so we can survive. When Yosef was first thrown into the pit, and then sold to the Mitzrim, and then sold to the Ishmaelim, and Midyanim, and then finally Potiphar, he never thought he was going to get out of this. But he knew Hashem was going to have his back. He knew Hashem something's going to do, but he didn't know how. If any of us, Chas v'Shalom, was ever put in such a situation, what would be the end of us? We couldn't even think about Hashem going to come save us. It's over. But the truth is, we see at the end, everything turned out for the best. The Hafetz Chaim says, when we read these stories, it's not just to be read, and this is what happened. Yosef became king, and beautiful, everybody came, Shalom Yisrael, everybody's happy. No. This, he says, is the historic saga of the Jewish people, is what happens and continues to happen to the Jewish people. We fall, and Hashem brings us right back up. Hashem always turns things around. When everything looks really bad, Hashem brings everything right back up. God's hands works in mysterious ways, and man cannot understand it. Man often finds himself in very terrible trouble, never dreaming that his seemingly helpless situation is actually the springboard for the salvation. Rabbi Elchanan Wasserman relates a most fascinating story that helps explain all our troubles that we go through. We can't understand why they're coming or where it's going to lead us to. One day, a man who knew nothing about farming came to a farmer and said, I want to become your apprentice. I want to learn how to farm. The farmer took him out to the field and asked him, what do you see? So the man said, I see a beautiful piece of land, lush with grass and pleasing to the eye. The visitor replied. He then watched in horror as the farmer plowed the grass and turned the beautiful green field into a mass of shallow brown ditches. He ruined the whole thing. He says, so this man doesn't know anything. He says, why did you ruin it? What did you do? So the farmer says, be patient. You will see. Then the farmer showed his guest a sack full of plump kernels of wheat. Showed him a nice thing of, wheat kernels. Mm-hmm. He says, what do you see? He said, wow, I see good quality grain. And then, again in shock, he watches the farmer take these grains and throws them into the holes he just made in the field. He says, are you crazy, Meshuggah? What'd you do? First you destroy the field, and then you ruin all your grain. You could have made food out of that. And you ruined all of it. He says, again, be patient, you will see. Again, some time went by, and the farmer took his guest out to the field. He says, now look, what do you see? He saw endless straight rows of green stalks sprouting from the ground. He saw beautiful wheat growing. The visitor smiled broadly and said, wow, I apologize, Mehila. Now I understand what you were doing. You made the field even more beautiful than before. The art of farming is truly marvelous. He says, it's beautiful. No, said the farmer, we are not done. You must be patient. As time went by, and the stalks grew fully, the farmer came with his sickle, and like a Meshuggah started chopping everything down. His visitor's mouth was open. He's like, what are you doing? You're ruining the whole field. Then he took all these stuff that he cut, he put them in bundles, he put them in another place, where he started crushing them until they became a mass of straw and loose kernels. Finally, he separated the kernels from the chaff, piled them in a huge hill. Always he told his visitor, we are not done, you must have more patience. The farmer brought his wagon and piled it high with grain. He took it to a mill, where it was ground into a formless, choking dust. The visitor complained again, you have taken grain and transferred it into dirt. What were you doing, he says. And again the farmer tells him, wait. The farmer put the dust into sacks and took it back home. He took some of the dust, and guess what he did? He put it in water and fashioned it into mud, into the shape of a loaf. The visitor saw the perfectly formed loaf and smiled broadly. But his happiness did not last. The farmer started a fire and threw it into the fire and put the loaf into the oven. And now the man says, listen, Be'emet, now I know that you're completely insane. There's no choice for you. You got to go to the asylum. After all that work, you go and you burn what you made? So the farmer only laughed. He said, have I not told you to be patient? At last, the farmer opened the oven and took out a freshly baked bread, crisp and brown, with an aroma that made the visitor's mouth water. Come, the farmer said. He placed the loaf on the kitchen table, cut it, and offered his now pleased visitor a liberally buttered slice. Now, he said, you understand. God is the farmer, and we are the fools who cannot begin to understand how Hashem does stuff. Only at the great festive banquet when Mashiach comes, when the process is complete, will the Jewish people know why everything happened. When Mashiach has finally come, we will know why even those events that seemed destructive. Remember, Yochanan Wassman lived right at the time of the Nazis. He was killed by the Nazis. And people, this rabbi that said the story, Yochanan Wassman, he was a student of the Hafetz Chaim. He says at the time, he's going through this. He says, stuff that seemed destructive and painful are part of a process that will produce goodness and beauty. Everything will be rectified on the great day when we will recognize that all of human history was a preparation for the great banquet when Mashiach comes. The story of Yosef is the story of Yaakov's children of all generations. Whenever they seem to hit rock bottom, it really is God's way of preparing them for redemption. This is mirrored in the words of Yeshaya, who says, you will say on that day, I thank you, Hashem, for you were angry with me. It's in Perek Yudbet, Pasuk Aleph from Yeshaya. He says, thank you, Hashem, because you were angry with me, that you made all these troubles for me. At the end of the day, we will realize that the pain and all this stuff we went through were really the initial steps of salvation, of Yeshua, of Hashem saving us. So, people have to understand that you can't just... That's one of the things about a Jew, Emunah B'tachon. When something goes bad, he is not supposed to curse the world out. This is Hashem's plans. Why it is like that? Why it happened like that? You know, so many times, I've had it personally, where you lose everything, and then suddenly something good and bright pops up. That's the way Hashem runs the world. We're not to judge Hashem in any way. All we can do is believe in Hashem that Hashem will pick us up. Like He picked up Yosef, like this farmer with the bread. Until the final product is made, no one can say anything to Hashem. Now, in Pasuk Het, he tells them again, Ve'ata lo atem. Now it was not you, Shalachtem oti hena, that sent me here. Ki ha-Elohim, because it was God. Talking about Hashem's plans, some people like to believe that they can do something about it. Some people are always trying to do something to thwart or to go against Hashem's plans. Like, Hashem is making me do this, I'm not going against Him and do something like that, just to fix the situation what He thinks is fixing. Hashem has a plan. The brothers told Yosef, we're going to see, if you go back to last week's parasha, I believe, or 2 weeks parasha, in Perek 37, he says to them, 37:20, right? 37:20, Vayeshev, he tells them as follows. They said, we're going to see what's going to happen to his dreams. Yosef is dreaming, we threw him into the pit. Let's see what's going to happen from everything that he's been dreaming. And what happens? Yosef becomes the king. And they bow down to him, and all the dreams happen. Bereshit Rabbah says as follows. Hashem said to them, you said, we shall see. But I say, we shall see whose plan will prevail. Yours or mine, Hashem said at that time. And they threw him down. Hashem says, you think you're going to finish him? We're going to see whose plan is going to prevail. Nothing can stop the fulfillment of Hashem's plan. For Yosef to become the king, who was the one that catalyzed? Who's the one who made it happen? The brothers. By selling him to Egypt, that's how he became. They wanted to stop him. They themselves made him the king. The Mishlei says in Perek Chaf Aleph, Pasuk 30, Ein chokhmah ve'en tevuna ve'en etza leneged Hashem. There's no wisdom, no understanding, no counsel against God. You cannot do anything against Hashem's plan. They bring down the famous story from the Gemara in Sukkah. One day, Shlomo HaMelech was walking and he saw the Malach HaMavet. How he saw the angel of death, do not ask me. He saw him. He saw the angel of death, and he saw the angel of death was downcast. He was upset. I guess he was upset. So Shlomo HaMelech tells him, you know the story. Shlomo HaMelech tells him, why are you upset? He says, listen, Be'emet, there's two people I have to kill. They're your secretaries in your cabinet, and I can't get them. I can't get them. So Shlomo HaMelech says, really, what's the names? He tells him the names. Quickly, Shlomo HaMelech runs over to the two secretaries. Listen, I heard terrible news. You're going to die. They're about to kill you. You have to run away. There's a city called Luz in Eretz Yisrael. It's a city, special beracha, that if you're inside the city, nobody dies inside that city. You cannot die in the city.
What happened to the city?
I don't know where it is today. Don't ask me. You got to pay top money for that information. But he says you have to run there. So they get on their horses and they start to ride as quick as they can. As soon as they get to the gate of Luz,
He supports it, right?
whatever happens, I don't know if stones fell or whatever happened, and they died. The next day, Shlomo HaMelech is walking, and again he sees the Malach HaMavet. The Malach HaMavet this time is happy. So he goes, why are you so happy? He says, remember those two secretaries? Because of you, I was able to kill them. So what do you mean? I tried to save them. So you don't understand. Every person who dies, he says, Hashem has a place of where he's going to die, when he's going to die, and how he's going to die. I only could kill them at that gate at that time. Thanks to you, they were there. So thank you, Todah Rabbah, that you send them there. Rav Pam says, this Maharsha that explains this part of the story, he says, this is very important for people to remember, that there's no way to change Hashem's plan. He says, nowadays, Baruch Hashem, people live longer. And middle-aged people become parents to two sets of people, to their children and to their own parents, right? The parents, they start getting frail as life goes on. So they start taking care of their own parents. And as life takes it, people get sick. Parents get sick. The older they get more sick, they get more debilitated, they can't move around, they need help with a lot more stuff. And they end up in a hospital bed with whatever disease they have, whatever problems they had. And the family has to make certain decisions. And they make decisions, and they go to one doctor, and they go to a second doctor, and every doctor has a different opinion. One says do surgery, one says give meds. A third doctor has a whole different opinion. Right? It's like rabbis; everybody has a different advice that they give and a different thing that they give. But in the end, the family sits down, and with their seichel and sati d'shemaya, they ask Hashem to give them the right choice, and they choose what to do. And then lo aleinu, lo aleichem, the person passes away, niftar. At this point, what happens in a lot of families, big fights erupt. I told you not to listen to that doctor. I told you not to do that surgery. I told you not to do this med. Rav Pam says, how do you say such things? Everything that happens, every death that occurs, happens the time, place, everything that's supposed to happen. How could you go around screaming at anybody? On Rosh Hashanah, we have, some people have, not everybody, Ashkenazim will have, but some Sephardim say the special prayer of the of Rabbi Gershom, is it? No, who is it?
The long...
Unatena Tokef, where we read that, I forgot what his name was. Kleinimus. No, he's the one who said it over.
Yeah. Abraham something, I think.
There was a rabbi, everyone knows the famous story. The rabbi, and he also worked for the government, and they said, you're going to convert, and he said, no, give me 3 days. They chopped off his legs, and then he wrote a prayer that a lot of people read in Rosh Hashanah, Unatena Tokef. And in that prayer, he writes, how Hashem says on Rosh Hashanah, who's going to die, who's going to live? Who's going to go when? So a person gets all excited and they start screaming and yelling, it's your fault, it's your fault, it's your fault. We're not allowed to think that, right? That's why Yosef says, what does he say? Va'ata lo atem. It was Amnon.
Yeah.
That's right, Amnon. That's correct. That's correct. Va'ata lo atem. He says, it wasn't you. It was God who sent me here. You thought you did this to me. You tried to stop me. It's all God's plan. So you understand what the Torah now is telling us. We have one last piece on the parasha, and this is a very important piece. So now, Yosef, we're looking at the 45:8. This is the next one is 45:25. Mem Hey, Pasuk Chav Hey. Yosef tells them, V'yomer alehem al tirgizu badarech. He says, don't. The English, what does they say? What does it say here? Where are we? 25 towards the end. He says,
They went up to Egypt and they came to the land of Canaan.
this is a mistake here. I don't know what they did here. Do not become agitated on the way. Don't become agitated on the way. What does that mean? Tirgizu. There's a lot of explanation the Gemara brings down. The Gemara on Tanit says, he tells them, don't take big steps. Right? We learned that you're not supposed to take big steps. When a person takes a big step, he loses his eyesight. You say, if you look at the candlelights, whatever the story is, the Kotzker Rebbe explained this very, very nicely. He said like this, yes. We have a lot of stuff from all over here. So he says as follows. He says, what happens? Yosef told the brothers they were alive. The brothers have this exciting news. They want to go. They want to tell their father what happened. Yosef's alive. You don't have to mourn anymore. So they said, we're going to run. We're going to fly to our father. Yosef says, don't fly. Don't run. Go at your regular pace. He says, why? He says like this. Hashem, like we just mentioned, Hashem has a plan for everything. How long Yaakov's suffering is supposed to be for?
21.
Hashem knows how long it's supposed to be for. Exactly when it stops. A person thinks he's going to run. A person thinks he's going to run. And he's going to get there. Or a guy wants to go he has to go somewhere. So he thinks he's going to leave early, and he's going to get there early. And what happens? He gets stuck in 2 hours of traffic, and he ends up coming there at the same time. If he would have left late, he would have ended at the same time. Everybody has a certain time when they have to get to that place. He says, don't run to your father. Don't worry about it. This news is going to come to him when he wants. If Hashem wants it to come earlier, Hashem is going to make kfitzat haderech. Like sometimes when you're coming home from work or something like that, and you think it's going to take you an hour and a half, and then you go, whoa, I made it in a half hour. One time it happened to me. I was on the train, and I took accidentally the local train. I thought, I'm going to get home in 2 hours now. And I got home in 45 minutes, faster than I would have taken the express train. It usually takes me an hour and 10 minutes on the express train. I got home in 45 minutes. I couldn't understand it. But this is Kvitzat HaDerech. Hashem decided I had to be home at that time. That's what Yosef was telling them. You're going to get to your father when you're going to get to your father. Don't take big steps. Don't run. Calm down. It's going to happen when it's going to happen. No need to run quickly. People have to understand that. Especially the other day, some people, sometimes they get all like, oh my gosh, I'm so late. If you took proper precautions and you left on time and you tried to get there on time and you came late, that's not your fault. But your boss might say it's your fault, but it's not your fault. God decided for you to come at that time.
What if you
Now go explain that to your boss.
Well, I tell you what, if God really decides if that's the time for you to come, then either He wants you to get in trouble or He won't get you in trouble. Right?
Get a new boss.
It's on Shim. You have some things that He makes in trouble. But Lama said, this is the way it works. This is the way it works. Hashem rules the world. So, Rabbi, on this, Rav Yitzhak Zilberstein, he brings down a musar that's so important to learn, such an important concept in life that people do not pay attention to. He brings down from the Baal Turim, on the same pasuk, Al Tirgizu Madarich. He says, the brothers said, we're going to go fast to our father. Not only are we going to go fast, we're going to run through people's property. And he said, you know why? Because our brother, he's a king. Our brother's a king. And the king has a din. The king has a law. As so does the president of the United States, has something called eminent domain. There you go. Eminent domain. And he decides, I need this property for government stuff, or I need it for my road. And the same thing. The Jewish king says, I need your house. That's it. Your house goes kaput, and he makes his road on there. He can make his summer house on your land if he wants to. He's a king. So I said, you know what? And not only that, we're going to do something that's life or death. Yaakov Avinu is dead. Why he's dead? He's depressed. A person's depressed is like he's dead. We're going to make Tchiat HaMeitim. We have mitzvah. We're going to do it a mitzvah. We're going to run. We're going to tell our father. So it's okay if we run and break through people's property. So what does Yosef tell them? Yosef says, Ein nachon, that's not correct. You have to do a mitzvah correctly. When you do a mitzvah, you do it right. You don't start breaking people's stuff. And because I'm doing mitzvah, a person goes, I'm allowed to steal from everybody because I'm going to give it to the poor. Robin Hood is not permitted by the Torah.
What if you want to save a person's life?
So that's pikuach nefesh. That's a whole different
Same
story.
thing here.
Yaakov Avinu
Saving.
it's different. It's a difference because Yaakov Avinu wasn't going to die. He was kemomet. He was like he's dead because he's depressed for 22 years. But it's not. Only time pekuach nefesh you're allowed to do stuff like that is someone who's about to die, like he's dying. But a person is not dying, you cannot do those things. There's two types of sakana. There's sakana that's sakanat nefesh, that's about to die, or it's chola she'eno sakana. Two types of sick people. Chola, he's sick. And sakana, he's not going to die. Or cholash is sakana. It's a different halachot. A person who's sick and it's dangerous for him you allowed to do everything for Shabbat. But a person who's sick, but he's not a sakana, you're not allowed to do anything for him on Shabbat. Pretty much, right? You can't even take Tylenol if you have a headache. You can't put a Band-Aid if it's not going to bleed out. You can't do those things on Shabbat. There's halachot there.
What if it's bleeding a lot?
If it's going to bleed out, then it's pekuach nefesh.
Not bleed out, but bleed a lot.
Call the nurse.
Of course, if it's dangerous, and there's stuff that you could do. You have to learn how to chol for that. But you understand the difference between the two types of sick people. So he says, do not do this mitzvah. I'm going to go do kibbud av v'eim. I'm going to go save somebody, and this type of thing by doing averot, by breaking people's property. And he says it's very, very important to teach us to people about public property. He says a lot of people decide that their house has to be kept clean, but when they take out the garbage, if you live in an apartment building, whatever, they just throw it there, and then bugs come and mice and rats and stuff like that. Yosef is teaching us you can't do that. A person has to take care. You can't open the chute and put all your garbage and smear it all around. Or you know what, it doesn't fit. I'll just leave it in there and someone will take care of it later. Someone will come. Or something stinky and you put it out on the front. It's not in my house. Well, I remember, Hashem should forgive me, when I was younger and I used to throw things out the window. I don't need it anymore. I just threw it out the window. I'm laughing about it, but it's serious. It was really wrong with what I did. I wasn't thinking. I was a fool. But
we weren't that bad.
We had to do things out the window. Pistachio nut shells. You just I don't need it anymore. From the third floor, you shoot it out. People don't think they ruin the public property. Yosef is teaching us here how it's so important. Do you know that the Chilul Hashem, the most that keeps people who want to become religious from becoming religious, is when they see that the Jewish religious people don't care about the property. They just throw things. They just think they own the street. They take up the whole thing with their strollers. They're talking as if nobody else exists in the room. These type of things are the biggest Chilul Hashem that makes everybody not become Jewish, not become more religious.
When the traffic, they're taking their time.
And they're standing there, or they stop at their cars and they're talking. These things. It's a big Chilul Hashem.
Because we believe that the world was created for us, so that's
yeah, but a little too much. But at the same time, Avraham Avinu said, "Ani afar be'afar," right? I'm dust and dust. So the guy used to have two things in his pocket. One pocket he had that said, "The world was created for me," b'shvili bara nivra ha'olam, and the other pocket he had which says, "I am dust and nothing." So whenever he thought that he was something big, he took out the pocket that said, "I'm nothing." Whenever he thought he was nothing, he pulled out the pocket that said that I'm something very special. The person has to have that balance. The Gemara relates in Bava Kama. The Gemara relates in Bava Kama. There was once a man who was removing stones from his property and tossing them into the Reshut Rabim. He had his property and he wanted to do some renovation, so he took his old stones and started throwing them into the Reshut Rabim. So a tzaddik Hasid saw him and told him, "Reika, why are you removing stones from your property that's not yours?"
You call them empty?
Yeah. And placing them into a property that is yours. So he tells him like this. Look, listen what happened. The man is in his house and he's throwing stones from his house outside. The Hasid comes over and says, "Why are you throwing from what's not yours to what is yours?" He's saying yours is the outside and your house is not yours. Oh, wow. So the man just laughed at him. The man, it just should be the opposite. But the man just laughed at him. Later, he had to sell his field. He lost his money, he had to sell his field. And now where did he live? He ended up on the streets. So now what was his? The Reshut Rabim. And as he was walking through the same piece of public property, he fell on his own stones. Person plants his own traps. He said, that pious person spoke wisely when he said, "Why are you removing stones from property that is not yours and placing them in that is yours?" The En Yaakov, right? He says as follows. Why was he called Reka? Chazal explained. Hillel said, "What is hateful to you, do not do to others." This is the whole Torah. The individual transgress this, he did this avirah, then when he not to do to anybody else, yeah, I don't care, it's not, I'm not walking there, other people are walking there, who cares about them? So he says, usually we're called, everyone in Israel is called like Rimon, right? So his mitzvot kirimon. You're full like Rimon mitzvot. But this man who doesn't treat the public property nicely, he's called Reka. Empty. Nothing. He has no mitzvot. He's very inconsiderate, and that's why he's considered with no mitzvot, this type of person. Just think a moment. Doesn't every person grow angry when his neighbor throws the dirt and you go to shoot to throw your garbage and someone else already stuffed it up? You get upset. But when you do it, you don't. It's okay. When that guy does it, you're all upset. But when you decide to do it, it's okay. And you rationalize it, like we mentioned before. The fool always rationalizes what he's doing. It's okay. I can figure it out. The Ben Ish Chai writes that it's a mistake to think that you only have angels on Friday night. A lot of people think, I only have malachim next to me on Friday night when I come home from shul. The two malachim come, they see a good house, they see my table set, they see my bed. The Ben Ish Chai says people think that only malachim come Friday night. He says you shouldn't think like that. Angels escort a person always. However, says the Ben Ish Chai, the angels do not accompany everyone. One of the conditions for the special escort is one that respects public property. A person who keeps only his home clean and sparkling, but throws all his leftover trash into the street without any consideration for accidents this might cause, is someone from whom the angels flee. A person's concern for cleanliness of shared property is his measure of ben adam lechavero, how he acts between one person and his friend, his observance of the mitzvah between himself and his fellow men. Only in this way can he demonstrate the depths to which that all-important lesson has penetrated his psyche. What is hateful to you, do not do unto others. Caring for public property the way he cares for his own belongings raises the person spiritually. The Torah of the living God is not like other fields of study. In order to glean the happiness hidden within it, one must purify himself. And one of the best ways of doing so is by respecting his neighbor's needs and wishes. You want to love Hashem, they say. Love His creations. His creations are the people, His public property. Everything that's there, you cannot just throw dump on it or just treat it in disdain and stuff like that. From these few psukim that we looked at, we learned an enormous amount of how to live a life as a better Jew. The whole point of this class, when we were speaking to Yonatan, he says, what are you going to talk about? Are you going to talk about this, talk about that? I told him, my goal is just to tell myself, and at the same time speaking out loud, other people to hear how to behave as a better ethical Jew, as Hashem wants us to behave. You know, you can learn Pirkei Avot 10 times, but if you don't take it to heart, you're not going to do it. If you see our fathers doing it, that's why Sefer Bereshit is called Sefer Yashar, the upright Sefer, because we learn from them, from Yosef, how to act, from Yaakov, how to act, from his brothers, how to act. We learn what to do, what's correct, and what's not to do. So just to recap, the lessons that we learned is first to be consistent. Don't be inconsistent. Be hypocritic. Say, Binyamin, I have to send back because his father is going to be worried. Right? But when they sold Yosef, they weren't worried about his father. The same thing a person would say, that guy, I don't have any money, but he has money to buy everything else. So we talked about that. Then we talked about a person can live 22 years of his life and think he knows everything, he's doing everything right. He'll live 70, 80 years of his life. And then he comes to Shemayim, Hashem says, Ani Hashem, why don't you make your spirituality the primary? And then we learn not to take anybody for granted and think that anybody could be a nobody. Because in the end, Yosef, everyone thought he's over, he's in prison, no chance of him becoming something, and he became the biggest. We had that story about the miser. We also talked about how at the end of the days everything's going to make sense. The farmer and the guy who was watching him, right? How everything's going to make sense in the end. We also talked about that no one can stop Hashem's plan. Hashem's plans are going to last, so don't try to fight Hashem's plans. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Just pray that it happens for your litovah, for your best, and you can withstand them, and not to have any nisayon, not to have any tests, and Hashem should give you a life menuchat nefesh. Then we learned that a person, right, shouldn't run artigazu baderech. Hashem has the time. Everything's going to end. Everything's going to stop. And we also learned about how you cannot just break other people's properties. You have to know how to do everything la halacha and take care of public property, take care of other people, respect everyone and everything that Hashem created in this world. We don't have a minyan, right? No. Rabotai, let me just stop it here. 54 minutes. I think I did it.
Oh, wow.